Howdy, my name is Roger. I love my country, my truck, and Power Platform best practices. If you're serious about becoming a Power Platform solutions architect, join the Architects Accelerator. Now enough of my fake Southern accent, and let's hear from an actual participant of the program, Anna Black.
Hi, I'm Anna Black. I'm the creator of Power Platform Cookbook. I joined the Architects Accelerator because I saw a post from Magdalena and she was so positive and inspired me to join and see what it's all about. Before joining the accelerator, I was avoiding AI. And then when I saw how to apply AI and practice like soft skills, and it just like it really opened my mind to try different things for myself with different tools and everything. It really helps you to evaluate what you know and what you don't know, because when you are doing your job for like so many years, you might be missing a trick and like a different approach. So it really helped me to look at the problems from a different angle. And it was really great to meet with people and be like a part of another community and exchange ideas and so on. So yeah, lots of benefits that did change my life. So thank you.
The link is in the show notes, or go to untethered365.com to learn more.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is Mike Gowland, and I'm here with my co-partner, rat in crime, John Russell. Say hello, John.
Hello, how are you? You all right?
What do you mean he's left? What?
Don't worry, two become one.
Oh, I better check when we're
That's
releasing
weird.
that episode, because our guest doesn't even do that. Our guest today, John, is Mike Blair. Mike's a guy who's not afraid to admit that sometimes you need to shake things up to get ahead. Mike has spent 11 years with one company before taking a leap, and since then he's broadened his horizons across different industries, gaining new perspectives, skills and friendships along the way. We're going to dive into what he's learned from his journey and why getting too comfortable can sometimes hold you back. Mike, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Really good, thanks, and thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you on, mate. And obviously, I think we're going to have to do some name checks. So Mike B and Mike G, I think, from the off. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to get well confusing. So, yeah, welcome to the podcast, Mike B. So should we start with how have you got to where you are today, like career-wise? How did you get to where you are now?
Sure. So if we don't mind a bit of time travel and go back to 1998, last century, I was just finishing my...
year, though.
It was definitely. I was just leaving college, finished my A-levels, and decided not to go to university and thinking, what do? I need to go and find a job. And at the time I was working in a toy shop. So, back when it was all Furbies and Tamagotchis, and I thought, right, I need to go and find a proper job, because I didn't think, staying in a toy shop was a proper job, but I couldn't find anything. And then I then suddenly became a assistant manager in a toy store, did that for a year, became a manager for a year, did that. And I thought, right, time for a bit of a change. And I'd always had an interest in IT, and had a PC, and even like taking it apart and put it back together. And thankfully it still worked most of the time. And I then asked at head office at the time, are there any vacancies in IT? I'd really like to start to look at that and get my foot in there. And lo and behold, a few years later, a career opportunity came available, and I started working with the IT manager, and that's how I started my journey in IT. And it was quite a techie, hands-on role, dealing with PCs, laptops and servers, and I carried on doing that until around about 2013, when I decided to jump ship and do something else and push myself and challenge myself. And like a lot of people these days, moved into SharePoint. So I think I'll have that millstone around my neck for a very long time. So I really did enjoy SharePoint and working with it. It's nice to do something new and new and challenging. But then my foot started to itch a little bit. I'm thinking, I want to do something different. And, you've mentioned already that I worked for that company for 11 years. I thought, right, it's time for a change. What do I do? And I'm based in Suffolk, so it's quite a sleepy area of the country. So I had two choices: either go to Cambridge, which is about an hour for me, or go to London. So I decided to go to London and go and work for a corporate organisation. And that was a little bit daunting at first, because it's very different from what felt like a small company where, you know, you knew everyone, especially after the amount of time that I worked there. And then after doing some SharePoint and then moving naturally into Office 365, an opportunity came my way to look at working as a change and adoption consultant. So something completely different from what I'm doing now, more formalized. And some of the projects that when I was being interviewed for sounded really exciting and caught my attention. And I thought, right, let's do something different again now and push myself and see what that holds in store for me.
Oh, that's cool. So you've gone from, so you started working in a toy shop. Was that a well-known like national toy store, or was that something like a local store to you?
It was yes and no. So without being too much of a pedant on it, it's called Toy Master. So it's a franchise.
Yeah.
So there's lots of dotted about, but it's like McDonald's. You can have McDonald's franchises, and it's the same thing. So yeah, it was something just opened up in the town. I thought, right, I'll go and do that as a Saturday job, and good fun.
So you spent 11 years there. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone who feels stuck in their career or may just be a little bit afraid to make a move? Because I've been in a similar situation. So when I was a copier engineer, I was there for 9 years. And the reason I was there for so long was because I was not expecting, but I was hopeful that I would progress in that career and in that business, and it just didn't happen. And I guess, you know, looking back now, I probably left it too long to sort of say, actually, you know what, nothing's happening here. I'm going to jump ship and do something else. But what sort of advice would you give to somebody who maybe like feels stuck in that career, the career that they're in?
It's easy with hindsight to say go for it, but go for it. Take a risk. You know, life and your career paths are pretty much identical in terms of it's not a linear line. It's squiggly, and there's always going to be bumps in the road, and that bump might be something that, you know, happens to you or happens another way. And I think I realised this quite recently with my personal life. So it's a bit of a lockdown cliche. So in with joining the nation, doing sourdough bakes, also hopped on a Peloton bike as well, and started to get, you know, going on every day, use as much as possible, getting to a reasonably good fitness level. But then in 2022, I had a personal injury, which meant I couldn't do that for 5 to 6 months. So that was my bump in my road, and affected other areas of my life as well. So it's kind of made me sit back and take stock and appreciate what I had. And there's actually, the best thing to do is literally get back on the bike and get back up to it. So, you know, it's that Chumbawamba song, you get knocked down, but you get back up again. And it's so true. And the same can be said for your career. You know, you take a risk, you find out it's not for you, fine, it's no drama, you go and do something else. And I think I'm fairly fortunate that my circumstances allow me a little bit of that freedom to go and experiment and try that. So it's not advice for everyone, because everyone has their own circumstances. So it's easy to do, but I think it's also sometimes having that conversation with self. Actually, I can go and do this and risk it, and you know, sometimes it does work out.
Yeah, and I guess there's people who are in different financial situations where that move can seem even more daunting, right? Where, okay, I'm making this career move, but actually, like, I've got my wife, husband, kids to support, other family to support, and actually, like, you know, if it goes wrong, I think a lot of people in their head will probably think, oh, this could be like catastrophic, but actually, it's not necessarily as scary as it seems, and it's not like you're gonna go in somewhere and then just like be gone the next week and then be out without a job or anything. Like, there are especially in the UK. I mean, there are protections in place around that. But yeah, it's just interesting because I don't, because as I mentioned before, I've been in that situation. I was afraid. Yeah, every job move I've done has been terrifying. Right. I don't know about you, John. How do you feel?
As I've got older, less terrifying.
Yeah.
But then I really resonate with what you were saying, Mike, about being in one job for a long period of time. I did that twice, and that took up about 17 years of my working career. And yeah, I do believe everything kind of happens for a reason. But I sometimes wonder, well, if I'd left that a little bit earlier, like what would have happened? But yeah, I'm happy with where I am now. And what's going on in the last few years have been really good for my career in the companies that I've been in. So is there anything though that you think, Mike, that you found like maybe there was a surprise when you moved from that the long-term role to what maybe go into a little bit detail about what the long-term role was, because I'm not sure that was that it wasn't the toy shop, it was somewhere else, right?
Yeah, no, it was someone else. I worked for an animal feeds company, dealing with
Yeah.
PCs, laptops, SharePoint, and telephony as well. So I had a varied role within there. So that I think that kept me in that position. But I think I definitely wish that I did it sooner in terms of leaving. So I joined that company when I was 25, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, because it was a small company, you knew everyone. You almost felt a bit like a family. You all got on. So it was a comfortable pair of slippers that you just suddenly
Yeah.
fall into bad habits before you know it. And I think reflecting on it, and again, I didn't realize this until I did eventually leave in 2016, that my career had stalled in terms of my own personal development, perhaps skills, outlook on life, because it's almost, it was a tunnel vision.
It's like
And
you're
I think that,
institutionalized a little bit.
yeah. And I think with certain roles, if you don't have that challenge and that stretch, you just don't move on. And I think that's more so in some technical areas. You have quite a limited career path. You either are an engineer or you become a manager of people. And yeah, I don't sit still for very long, and I get bored. So I have to like, what's next? What's next? What do I do? I need to be constantly fed new and exciting, shiny things.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best thing for me to do, is to move on. I think I found that my 10 years have gone down. So I've gone from 11 to 5 to 2. And I'm now 5 months in this one, and I don't think I think 2 years is probably a good innings for any role, for anyone that's thinking about moving on. It's like don't be afraid to move around and do different roles and push yourself and
It's
challenge
quite
it.
a big shift, I think. It's quite a big shift from where, like, our parents were. They were in jobs that some of them were in jobs for life, pretty
Yeah.
much. And so I'm wondering what I'm wondering, and this is like a kind of like question to everyone. I wonder why that is. Is it because they they feel worthy of that role? And yeah, go on, mate. Yeah.
I think there's an expectation that people expect to have recognition and long-standing reputation with one business, and that they will be looked after for that. But I think that's changed. I think years ago that was the case, but now I think you are the way businesses are growing, you are a number, and you will always be a number.
Yeah.
No matter how fluffy the place you work is and how it seems that they look after you. And that is quite critical with me saying that. But you are a number, and you are a resource, and they will quite easily and quite willingly make you redundant when they need to. Very negative of you to say that, but
maybe for a future episode, I'd love to find someone who did a career change in their like kind of late 40s, or I'm sure that's possible, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the same with you think the other way around with businesses. You think, oh, I've banked with this bank for so many years and they've done X to me, and it's like, again, it's it's the key word. It's a business,
Yeah.
and it's again, it's a cliche, but you work to live, not live to work, and you have to look out for yourself. And again, sometimes you think, I'm not enjoying this role, I need to go away and change. And if you do it with your own mental health to break that, so and do the best you can.
And there's all sorts of reasons, right? Why you would look to move. Because I mean, for me, it was by being. Yeah, it was down to pay, but it was also down to career progression, right? So like, every time I've come up to a block where it's like, well, actually, where do I go from here? And where I go is like, it's not going to be at this company because they're not. There is nowhere for me to go without me creating it, and I don't have the power to create that. So that's when, for me, like that's been my like. I need to start thinking about going. Also, a bad boss.
Yeah,
That's not directed at anyone. Just so everyone knows, it's not directed at anyone. It's not something recent. It was a long time ago.
I mean, the role that I left
I'm getting myself into a lot of trouble.
The role that I left in 2022 was of my own choosing, and I think I've got to the stage where it's like, I think my time here is done. I've done everything I can do. I can't grow anymore, and you're just kind of kicking along and turning the cogs and not really do anything. It's like I think it's great to get to that stage, and you've got that freedom to go away and look and find the job that does tick the box that makes you want to move.
So, Mike, you've mentioned that working with a more diverse group of people has been one of the highlights since leaving your previous role. Can you share how that's influenced your approach to work or even your life outside of it? Outside of work, not outside of it.
I think the biggest one was when I moved to working in London. Certainly more diverse than I was previously. And it was a real eye opener, and you get an insight to other people's lives and what they're doing, and it stops you being a little bit selfish in your own thoughts. You might think, well, that person is a little bit grumpy today. It's like, oh, they're being a bit of a pain, but then you can take a step back. Well, they've got this going on or that's going on, and it's you don't really take a step back. You're quick to judge someone very easily, without doing it. So it's just having that time to think about it. And that's, again, I think has come through into your own personal life, is that you don't jump to any conclusions, remove yourself from it and look at a different angle completely, and allows you to reflect more on it rather than being rash.
And how has that helped you in your current role? Like looking at with being around people with diverse backgrounds, etc.
It's you think you give people more time. So especially being a consultant, you have to build those relationships and get that trust and get people to work with you as much as possible, because you're not a part of that organization. So why should they spend their important time with you? And it's sometimes just having that slightly more human element, that open social conversation, rather than being that straight-laced business person that comes in and like, this is what I have to achieve, and treat it like a project. I've got these deliverables in, out, and it's build that trust and that relationship to get the most out of it. And ultimately we're all human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah, nice.
Building rapport, John?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, my favourite. Mike, what about, if you could give some advice to your younger self? Maybe you think of maybe your younger version of going into that job where you were going to be there for 11 years. Apart from kind of maybe saying try and leave sooner, is there anything else that you could give advice to that person?
I think for myself, I'd definitely say have more confidence in your own ability, and listen to people that tell you that, because I still struggle, I think, now with confidence myself. And I was looking at an old appraisal from a line manager, and it says Mike needs to have more confidence in himself, and that was 4 years ago. So why didn't I take that at face value? And
Quite a hard one to take, though. That's quite direct. I mean, it's good in a way that it's direct, but it's I think it could be a bit self-deprecating, that comment, because I'm like, well, okay, but how do I do that? I think that's a bit of a tricky one, bit of a tricky statement in my view, of just being like, you need to sort your confidence out.
It's kind of like telling somebody with depression to lighten up, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like how, but I can't just like do it. Like I need help doing it, right? And like if you don't feel confident, you need help in building your confidence. So I get where you're coming from there, John.
Yeah, so it's almost, think about, tell someone what you do really well, and compliment on that. And here are some areas that, you can perhaps work on. And it's like, or look at this feedback I've received. There's ways in which way you can do it. And I think I still struggle with it now, but I'm getting good feedback on what I'm doing. And that's definitely boosted my confidence now in my ability to trust in what I'm doing. And perhaps I've been reflecting on this is sometimes asking for help rather than trying to take everything on your own shoulders and thinking, right, I'm here to do a job, especially when you're new. It's asking for help should never be seen as a weakness.
No, never.
So I'd definitely ask for help as much as possible, as and when you need it, and not be afraid to talk to your peers or reflect on what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think there's a few sides to that, isn't there? So there's nothing wrong with asking for help if you need help with something. If you don't quite understand something, or you are struggling to get your head around something, or something's just not working for you, like ask for help. But that asking of help, you almost like I felt like you need to enter into a contract with who you're asking for help from, that you're going to learn, if they obviously give you that opportunity to learn, as to what they're helping you with. I have worked with people in the past who have always asked for help, but I've made a learning opportunity for them. So we go through a problem together, but they never then, they ask for help for the same thing again and again and again. It's like, well, you can ask for help, but like you need to like understand that you've had the help. Here's you've had full understanding as to how it works. You now need to apply that yourself. But absolutely, sorry.
Unless it's JavaScript.
I'd be out of a job. But yeah, like we definitely, I know, because I've been that guy as well, like starting a new job and like, I need to be able to do this all by myself, because they expected it as part of the job interview. So if I ask for help, it's going to make me seem like I actually don't know what I'm talking about. And yeah, it's a really slippery slope. It goes down into imposter syndrome as well. That all feeds into it. It's we need to normalize asking for help, I think.
Yeah.
And that can help to build confidence.
Like I've noticed, like starting where I am now, there's a couple of like more junior people on the team who have recently just started as well, and I've been reaching out to them, every other day just to check how they're doing. That it's very daunting coming into consultancy if it's a career change. All the kind of the basics, as well as probably learning new technology as well. So yeah, I like to give people the opportunity to ask for help, but I set that ground rule by saying you can come to me and ask me any question you like. If I don't know the answer, I'll go and find it out. But don't be afraid to put your hand up and say, I'm a bit stuck with this, or I don't know how to do this, because we've kind of all been there. And I wish in in back in the day, I wish I'd probably been given that advice earlier as well, because I definitely went through phases where I would just thrash and thrash to get something working, and actually spend too long on the problem when I could have asked for help after 2 or 3 hours, rather than spending a whole day on it.
It's actually quite liberating. So the one occasion where I did ask for help, it was on a project, and I'd underestimated the amount of work involved and the time it was going to take. So I spoke to my boss and said, "Look, I need to pause this and reevaluate it." And completely supportive, agreed, and supported me all the way. And after that conversation, it was like a weight was lifted from my shoulders, because I then had to go like moment where you could relax, and it's not all pent up.
And especially around that particular example, I would imagine that you got a lot of respect for actually flagging that up and saying, "Look, hold my hands up. Estimate's a bit wrong. I need to sort it out," because you could be like 6 months down the line with that old estimate, and then you're in a bit more of a trickier position.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Mm. No, it's your question, because it's uncomfortable corner.
I'll have to cut that bit out. So, Mike, have you listened to the podcast before?
I have, yes.
So you must be aware of our regular section called Uncomfortable Corner.
Uncomfortable Corner.
It makes me laugh.
Yeah, the rumours are true. We actually do play the music during the recording. So, Mike, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable, whether that was in or out of work? How did you handle it, and what did you learn from it?
Well, this one was in work, and it was probably about only 4 months ago. So that change from working in an office with colleagues to being fully remote, which is a first for me. And yeah, being a consultant, I think the expectations, I feel, are a little bit higher, because you're delivering, people are paying for your services and your time, and spending time with colleagues, listening to them, having conversations. I thought, you guys are really good. I'm nothing like you. And I thought, have I made a mistake? Am I doing the wrong thing? Should I be going back to what I know best? And have I bitten off more than I can chew? So I decided to speak to a friend who'd recently gone through a similar change in role. And luckily, she managed to talk some sense into me, and said, "Look, you've only been in this role for a short amount of time. Give it some more time. See how you feel." And she was 100%. I spoke to my boss about this. I think 3 months into the role, I thought I'll just check to see how I'm doing. I wanted that sanity check that everything I'm doing right, and I've got really positive feedback from that. So I feel that it was semi-justified, but I think it's definitely still a confidence thing, and around what you're doing and how you maybe have that perception of yourself. It played definitely a big part in it, and this isn't the first time that I've had that feeling of imposter syndrome. It's when I moved to working in London. Had such a big SharePoint estate to look after, and I thought, wow, this is a really complex business, really corporate, things that I've never heard about before. Don't know what I'm doing. But fortunately with that one, within a day, I walked away. I thought, actually, I can do this. I've got this. So I think it's, again, perfectly natural to have these feelings of apprehension that you're maybe not up to the job. But you've got there, you've got through the interview, someone sees something in you. And, again, if you're not sure in something that you are doing, take some time to think about it. Speak to anyone in your team or anyone in your personal life, and just share, and don't bottle it up. It's quite easy to to keep it to yourself. And it's like asking for help in a situation in work. It's that same thing, I'm not sure about this. What am I doing? Or what could I be doing better? Or what am I doing well? Or what to watch out for? And it's just making sure that you're doing it in the right way. And I always see, your first 3 or 6 months in any new role, it's a bit like dating. You're both getting to know each other and what you're doing and what you like. So it's definitely a two-way street there. And I think if you have that conversation early on, if you're not sure, and there might be some things that you need to work on, or there might not be. It's just that I think just having that regular check-in to make sure that you know that you're doing. And I think if I was looking after someone that was in that situation as well, and they'd come to me, it'd be like, great, to watch out for it and say that my door is open if you want to come and speak to me.
Yeah. Have you seen a session delivered by Dan Barber on imposter syndrome?
Haven't, no.
No, I don't know. Are there any recordings of it, John? Do you know in the world? Because
I'll have a look, but I think there probably is. I think he did it with Sarah Jones on VRT. So
VRT, he did, yeah. So it should be on YouTube. We'll link to it in the show notes. But I think we've almost talk about it almost every episode, don't we, John?
Yeah.
But it's a really good session to understand imposter syndrome, and I think. When I first saw his session, and obviously me and John are quite good friends with Dan anyway, there was on this slide, he lists all of these things. Like, have you ever experienced any of these? Then you probably have imposter syndrome. And I was looking at it thinking, that's what made me think I had ADHD.
Huh.
It's really interesting to like the whole feeling distracted and feeling like you can't get anything done. Like it's just really interesting how that sort of melds in together.
Yeah, I think the brain is a very interesting thing. I wish I could understand it a bit more, but it's I think mine's a bit of a black box most of the time. Well, I think that's all we've kind of got time for today. Thank you, Mike, for joining us. Your links to LinkedIn, etc., will be in the show notes, as well as that link to Dan Barber's imposter syndrome session. And if we've used any other links or resources, we'll also mention them in the show notes too. Music today was provided by Ken Like Fit, and you can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. Additional music used in the episode is also credited there. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode, and we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a follow on LinkedIn. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers. We're about 120 off, I think. So give us a follow on there. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you very much. This has been Sprint Zero. We've been Mike Gowland. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.
Mike Blair. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
And I'm John, and we'll see you on the next episode of Sprint Zero. Thanks a lot.
It's a shame the video's not the other way around, because then John would be in a Mike sandwich.
Ooh. Love you, Mikes.
Love you, John and Mike.
Hey, how you doing? Have you heard about the Architects Accelerator course? If not, you definitely should check it out. Let me tell you some more about it. So the Architects Accelerator course is a course that's run by Sean Astrahan. He's based in the US. He's a lovely fellow, really. And it's basically bridging that gap for solution architects and wannabe solution architects who maybe need to have a bit more of some advanced topics to talk about and advanced things to look into. One of the best bits about the course is how much effort Sean and his team have put into creating a community of vibe around it. He's got lots of integrations working, and you can work out when the next sessions are, have a look at people's intros, discuss technical topics and help out. It's a really, really good community. I'm John Russell from the Sprint Zero podcast, and just wanted to say thank you to Sean and for his continued sponsorship. If you want to find out more about the Accelerator course, please have a look at the link in the episode description.